Well, hello, power partners, and welcome to Starstyle, Be the Star You Are, brought to the airwaves under the auspices of Be the Star You Are charity and coming to you on the Voice America Media channel, the Empowerment channel, actually. The miracle moment for today is brought to you by Be the Star You Are. You can visit the charity at bethestaryouare.org. And this is from Joseph Campbell. The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. That always fits pretty well, that one with Be the Star You Are. Well, today it is hot. It's hot outside. I've been working on the hill and in the garden and with the barnyard, so it's a perfect time to talk about backyard ticks. Besides being allergy season, it is also the beginning of tick season, and ticks bring many types of really dangerous diseases. So we have to take measures to avoid ticks while hiking. And we also have to kind of tick proof our backyards, which is something we don't think about. So I'm going to give you a few tips to try to keep you healthy this year. And in segment two, how much sleep are teens getting? We talk a lot about sleep on this program. It's so important, but teens are not getting the amount of sleep that they need. There's several studies out that indicate that more than 50% of teens are sleeping 5 hours a night or less. So I want to try to help parents help their teens get their Z's. Well, going into tick season, spring is here in the Northern Hemisphere, and that means that both allergies and ticks are on high alert. I definitely am. I don't usually suffer from allergies, but I have been sneezing like crazy. And my eyes are all watering. And I am trying to be very careful about ticks because we're finding I have friends that have just been in their backyard, and when they come in, they see that they have ticks on them. So it depends where you're located, but with more activity comes that heightened risk of tick-borne diseases. The infamous one, of course, is Lyme disease, which is transmitted by the black leg tick, also known as the deer tick. But if you spend a lot of time outdoors like I do, or you have pets, this is really an important segment for you to hear about. I mean, every year I get several ticks embedded in me. It's usually in my neck. I don't know why, but I started wearing a neckerchief that has permethrin on it to keep them away because anytime I've gotten them in my neck, it's been too close to an artery and I've had to have it surgically removed. And that is not fun. So, most people know how to be tick aware if they're going camping or they're hiking, but are you taking precautions just when you are in your yard or when you're barbecuing? Research is suggesting that the majority of tick exposure occurs just in our everyday outdoor activities, like the way I garden or barbecuing or playing sports or just even walking your pet. And there is some good news lately, such as they're working on a new Lyme disease vaccine. It's in development, and I sure hope that it comes out because if Lyme disease goes undetected, it can be absolutely debilitating and lifelong. Now, climate change is increasing the range of ticks and the types of diseases they carry. So there are more ticks everywhere, and there's an increasing number of ticks that have these dangerous pathogens. So every bite that you get really poses a greater risk. And while you can't entirely prevent ticks from taking up residence near your property, there are ways to make your landscape less welcoming to them. And there are some prevention strategies that can keep you and your loved ones safer while you're enjoying your outdoor space. So, how can you make a backyard kind of a tick unfriendly zone? I haven't quite figured it out, but I'm working on it. So there are so many tick species throughout the United States. There's the black-leg tick, the Lone Star tick, and those like shady, moist, forested areas. But there's also the American dog tick and the Gulf Coast tick, and those prefer grassy fields, the edges of forests, and the open trails. So, knowing which type of ticks you are most likely to encounter might help you tailor your tick prevention to your own property. Now, the first thing you need to do is to check out the area where ticks thrive. And because black-legged ticks are susceptible to drying out, you're most likely to encounter them in parts of residential yards where the air is still humid or wet. They're not going to be out in the middle of the lawn, not necessarily because it'd be too dry out there for them. So they're probably in the shadier areas or the moister areas. And it's especially true if your yard is adjacent to like a woodland, a forest, or has a lot of different shrubs. Now, one tick you are likely to see in the sunny area of your grass is the American dog tick. And this species has a very thick, waxy covering, so they can hold all of their internal moisture better. The American dog ticks, fortunately, don't spread Lyme disease bacteria, but there is something they do spread, and that is really bad too, and that's Rocky Mountain spotted fever. So the Gulf Coast tick and the Rocky Mountain wood tick also thrive in these dry and grassy areas. So it's really good to maximize your sun exposure because blackleg ticks favor the moist, humid environments. And it's possible that by just taking care of your landscape, your garden, your grounds, and making sure that there's lots of light penetrating from the sun, that maybe ticks will be slightly worse or you won't have as many. You can cut back tree overgrowth and you can trim your bushes to reduce shade. That can limit the number of tick-friendly areas. And when you go out, you have to suit up correctly when you are working in your garden. And I'm going to tell you more about that as we go on. Like, it's really important to clear out the piles of leaves because leaf litter and brush piles, those are habitats that ticks absolutely love. In 2022, there was a study in Staten Island in backyards where there were log or brush piles, and there were so many different varieties of tick species. The black-legged ticks can be carried to these piles by deer or small animals, and then once they get there, they thrive. And thanks to the moisture and the shade that those leaves provide, then you really have a problem. So you could consider some kind of barrier. There's no evidence that creating a mulch, gravel, or wood chip barrier next to wooded areas is going to prevent ticks from crawling to your property, because usually how they get into your property is via an animal host, like your dog or your cat, or any animal that would be out there. And that kind of landscaping is beneficial if you have young children. It's not that the tick wouldn't be in a wood chip barrier, but you got to teach your kids don't go across the wood chips because there are ticks. Now, the safer spots for play equipment and recreation areas like swing sets, trampolines, any outdoor furniture would be best located away from any high risk edges. You want to place those items, the swings, trampolines, furniture, closer to your house or in the center of your yard where the sun is going to shine on them and makes it a little less humid. And then, as I said, that ticks don't like that much. Now, if you're on a hike, one of the big ways you get ticks is if you're brushing up against the grass or the higher grass, because what ticks actually do, they'll be on the grass and they jump onto you. You don't even know it. There's some of them are so small, like some of them are as tiny as like a pinpoint. So in your backyard, keep your grass short. Tall grasslands harbor black-legged ticks, and I don't really know how often you have to mow your lawn to reduce the availability of ticks. I mow mine once a week and usually water like twice a week. But ticks aren't usually detected on residential lawns, no matter what the mowing frequency is. But again, you just want to maintain your lawn since it's possible that there won't be as many ticks if you keep the grass short. Now, managing wildlife. Ticks don't crawl very far. But, like here where I am on the farm, we have a lot of deer, a lot of coyotes, foxes, all different kinds of birds, squirrels and all different kinds of critters, wild turkeys and etc. So ticks can enter your property even on the bodies of mice or the birds and chipmunks, squirrels, deer, of course. And so you got to keep any log piles or bird feeders and bird baths away from your home, and that'll prevent these animals and the ticks that are hitching a ride from getting too close. Now, mice, rats, chipmunks, they like to live in stone walls. So you want to seal up your foundation, remove any waste, and always close your trash bins because that would really attract rodents. And you've all been hearing about the hantavirus lately. That has me scared because there's always, I mean, I have good hunter cats, and they do find rats or mice or gophers or moles. So much are coming in from the hills. But I always worry because I want to, sweep my garage or my shed. But what they say for that, if you see any evidence of rodents, don't sweep it. You want to spray it with a, not a deodorizer, not an insecticide, like Clorox and water, something that is going to kind of neutralize it before you clean it up. And then you have to wear rubber gloves and put it in a bag and then throw away the bag and then wash the rubber gloves and then take the gloves off, throw them away and wash your hands. I hope that doesn't become a pandemic, but that hantavirus is pretty scary. You can treat your yard with a repellent, applying a tick repellent to your yard. It comes in a spray or a granular form. That has been shown to help with the reduction of ticks. So it might be worth considering if your property is in a high risk area. However, there isn't any real evidence that shows that tick control substances in residential areas reduce the probability of getting sick from a tick-borne disease. And of course, if you use a pesticide, in addition to killing your ticks, you might be killing, good pollinators or good insects like beetles and bees. So I don't use any pesticides in my garden at all. I have it completely organic, but I do spray myself with a DEET or something, and I'll tell you about that too, that will keep the ticks away. So before you go into your backyard, just remember that the nymphal ticks, they're active in spring and summer and they're smaller than adult ticks. They're only the size of a poppy seed. So you can understand how difficult they are to spot. So if you wear light colored clothing when you're gardening, it makes ticks a little easier to see because ticks are usually black or brown. And tuck your pants into your socks means that you won't have a gap between your skin that they can access because you don't want to. I wear boots out gardening, and I'll tuck my pants into my socks and then into my boots. Now, there are insect repellents that are registered with the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, DEET and Picaridin, and those can be used on the skin. But one of the best bets to protect against ticks is to use a 0.5% permethrin spray on your shoes or outdoor clothing. And this is a synthetic pesticide, and you can get it in all kinds of form. And you can buy like pre pre-treated clothing or aerosols or sprays that'll last like for 72 washers. Now, I've talked about it before. I buy mine, and they're not a sponsor, but if you're listening, Insect Shield, you should be a sponsor. Insect Shield is where I get my pre-treated clothing. They have some really nice things, both pants and long sleeve shirts, short sleeve shirts, and socks. And they don't smell or anything. They're really pretty colors and light colors. But you can also buy a spray of the permethrin that you could just spray. And then after you come back indoors, you always want to do a tick check. You want to pay close attention to your ears, your neck. Like I said, I always get them in my neck, belly button, underarms, and also between your legs. And behind your knees. Take a shower as soon as possible, like within 2 hours. Put all your clothing in the wash, or at the very least, it's said, I don't do this, I just put my clothes in the wash, but from what I've read about ticks, is that if you could put your clothes in the dryer on high heat for 10 to 20 minutes, because ticks can't handle the high heat. And if there's any ticks on your clothing, they will just die. But I got to tell you, when I come in from my hillside or my barn or my garden, um, I look pretty dirty, so my clothes go right into the wash. Today I was fixing broken pipes, and I sit on the ground, and this, and my whole bottom is wet. Anyway, but I don't want you to fear ticks, to fear them so much that it's going to prevent you from enjoying your yard or your hike or going camping. But you just want to be prepared, because these tick-borne diseases have very devastating complications. And if you're concerned and you do get a tick bite, you want to call your medical professional. It depends, and also save your tick. The way you take it out is you get it tweezers. Do not twist. There are some tick removers that say twist. You're not supposed to twist. You just take a tweezer and you pull it straight out, and then put it in a jar for identification. Because again, different ticks carry different diseases. But if you have any problem with getting a tick out, or it's in an area where near an artery or something, and you don't want to damage yourself, you may have to go to an urgent care or your doctor to have it surgically removed, the way I have had 3 times. And it's also said that depends on the tick, but usually if you get it out within 24 hours, you usually will not be infected with anything. However, if you do get a tick bite, you should call your medical professional, because they may want to prescribe an antibiotic. So an antibiotic that's taken within 24 hours of your bite usually can stop any infection. And just when I go out in my garden, I wear a scarf on my head, a scarf around my neck, and a hat. And the reason being is I have long hair, but ticks often will get into your hair. And what I've had in the past is taken a shower but not washed my hair after being outside. And when I went to bed at night, the tick dropped out of my hair and went down my neck. So just be prepared, just put in a little extra leg work. It'll keep you safe. And then you can enjoy your time outdoors, but be prepared. It is tick season. You're listening to Cynthia Brian. This is Starstyle. Be the star you are. We'll take a quick break, then we'll be back with a business bite, and we're going to give you some information on the importance of teen sleep. Stay tuned. When you have a decision to make, do you go with your gut? Successful decision makers realize that victory is achieved by strengthening your natural instincts. Consider the following tactics. You can focus on solutions, explore alternatives, clear your mind, listen to your heart, breathe, go into action, be proactive. Distinguish between decisions and outcomes because you have control of your actions, but not of the ultimate results. If you focus on preparing for the worst case scenario rather than daring to see all the possibilities, you'll gravitate toward being reactive instead of proactive. You need to trust your decisions. Developing your intuitive sense is similar to learning any new skill. The more you practice, the more proficient you'll become. And your success is ultimately about the action you take based on how well you listen to your gut. So listen carefully. Remember, you're the star of your own performance. Turn your profits in your passions into profits or your profits into passions, either way. This is another business bite from Starstyle. For more information, visit Cynthia Brian, Brian with an I.com. Well, we are back, and now we have segment two. You're listening to Star Style, Be the Star You Are, with me, Cynthia Brian. Thanks for staying tuned. Teen sleep. This is something, it is very important for teens because how our bodies repair themselves is through sleeping. And sleeping can help us prevent infections, rebuild our muscles, help our brains work better, help us focus more. Sleep helps prevent mood swings, and also it helps our bodies function. However, new reports about teenagers sleeping has indicated that most teens do not get the recommended amount. There was a study, researchers from the University of Connecticut analyzed the sleep habits of 121,000 high school students in the United States. And the information about the teenagers had been gathered by the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And the CDC asked the participants how many hours of sleep they got on any average school night. What the study discovered is that teens are not getting sufficient sleep, which sufficient sleep is defined as 8 or more hours a night. Teens dropped from more than 30% in 2007 to less than 25% in 2023. So, of the teenagers not getting 8 hours a night, more than 50% said that they slept less than 5 hours a night, which was less than other surveys of young people that had previously been done. So this study shows that there was no single behavior like screen time, that was causing the decline in sleep, but the results were about the same across all races, genders, cultural backgrounds, and even grade levels. So public health officials expressed concern that the majority of today's teenagers are getting less sleep than when it was considered healthy. And sleep plays such a critical role in the development of our adolescent brains. And the research shows that missing out on sleep can increase a teenager's risk of mental and physical health problems. And it can also lead to a decline in academic performance. So, the study that the authors said more research, of course, is always needed because more research is always needed. And we have to do a few things in order to create some kind of a relaxing bedtime routine. However, we need some broader changes, like maybe having high schools start their day no earlier than 8:30, which has been shown to lead to an increase in the overall amount of sleep that students got. I know that for years I got less than 5 hours of sleep, and especially when my kids were young and I was juggling my acting career and a busy interior design business and consulting, and I was doing television shows. I got so little sleep. And I used to, make that joke that I'll sleep when I'm dead. And then all of a sudden you realize you are going to be dead if you don't get enough sleep. So, again, the average teen needs, according to the scientists, researchers, and physicians, An average teen really needs 9 to 10 hours of sleep. Some might be able to do a little less, and some may need a little bit more. And that's every night because they're growing and their brains are growing. So the challenges for getting that 9 to 10 hours of sleep is, of course, the early morning school start times. I mean, when I was a teenager, I was getting up at 4:30 or 5 because I had to feed the chickens and the sheep and all, all the animals and stuff. And then by 7, I 6:30 or 7, the bus would come and it was an hour, drive. It was crazy. I guess it was 6:30 because school started at 7:50, I think. So that's just too early. It's just too early. Homework is another reason. Too much homework will leave the teens not getting enough sleep. Sometimes it is that teens are working, or they might have too many extracurricular activities. And sometimes it's just a natural shift in their circadian rhythm, and it makes it harder for them to go to bed early and to wake up early for school. There's a delayed sleep phase, and that's when a teenager's biological clock or circadian rhythm shifts. It usually starts around 13 years, goes through your early 20s. Teens might have difficulty going to sleep early. They want to stay up later and they want to sleep in later in the morning. So if you have teens, you've probably seen this. And I know John Hopkins University studies show this too. So, how can a delayed sleep phase be treated? It can help to keep a standard wake up time and be sure to count backwards from your bedtime to get 9 hours of sleep. So, using electronics before bed or taking a nap during the day can make it harder to fall asleep on time. And it's better to avoid that. Now, screen time is something that's all over the news and something we talk about. Screen time is phones, tablets, TV, computers, and this really interrupts a person's ability to go to sleep because the light from the screen can impact the release of melatonin. And melatonin is a natural chemical that helps us feel sleepy. So when you're using a screen, it actually prevents the melatonin release and it makes you stay up later. So also, using your fingers or clicking on a device can release dopamine, which is another chemical, and that can keep you awake for longer. Now, what about eating? Studies have shown if a person does not sleep enough, they're more likely to choose unhealthy foods and they're more likely to eat late at night. Both are bad. And when it comes to caffeine, we all know that caffeine keeps people awake, makes it harder to fall asleep. So, the best time if you're going to have caffeine is in the morning, whether that's caffeine in your tea or coffee, and nothing later. So, a couple of tips for a good night's sleep is to keep a consistent bedtime and a wake up time. And if possible, do this on the weekends. I know that a lot of teens, what they end up doing is, they'll stay up late, do all their homework, get up early on school days, and then the weekends they'll sleep till noon. But it's hard for that because it's putting your rhythm off. And put away all the electronics at least an hour before bed. Maybe read, take a bath, have a glass of hot milk with honey in it, something like that. That would be better for you. And if you're having trouble sleeping after you've have a consistent bedtime and you're not using screens and you're not drinking caffeine, you could talk to your doctor about it because you might need a sleep specialist. But for parents out there, do the best you can to help your teens get that 9 to 10 hours of sleep. Their brains are growing, their bodies are growing and developing, and sleep is what washes away all the debris that's the toxins that are in our bodies and our minds. And we really need that fresh start every morning. Well, that is the show on Starstyle, Be the Star You Are for today. I hope you are staying tuned with us every Wednesday when we bring you a new show. I like being a personal growth success coach and hopefully giving you some fun advice that can help you change your life for the better. and sometimes make your dreams come true. For more information about Starstyle Productions or to purchase any of my books, of which there are 12, visit cynthiabrian.com. You can click on books to see the different books. There are gardening books, nature books, self-help books, books for teens, as well as a whole children's series. And for information about Be the Star You Are charity, visit btsya.org. My aim is always to encourage, inspire, inform, amuse, and motivate. See beyond your physical being. Know you are already the star you dreamed of becoming. Cherish the past, dream of the future, but play right now in this moment. And until next week, when we celebrate once again, remember that love always wins, kindness always prevails, and it's smiles that will keep us happy. I'm Cynthia Brian for Star Style, thanking you and encouraging you to be kind, inclusive, tell the truth, live with integrity, embrace cultures, encourage others, be generous, read, lead, succeed, communicate, collaborate, innovate, and most of all, be your unapologetically authentic self because everyone counts. Go out into the world and be the star you are. And I hope that you have a really fun or restful Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy some time off, get to the beach or go camping or spend time with family and friends. Whatever you do, have fun, make it special, stay away from ticks,